Manny here once again. Welcome back to DFS Zone, your source for daily fantasy sport lineup advice for the NFL and the NBA. Got a brand new video for you guys today. We're going to discuss Week 8 of the NFL, some of the best possible plays for us at running back. But before I get started with the video, like always, guys, I appreciate you guys drop a like. It definitely helps out my channel, and I greatly appreciate that. And if you're new to the channel, never been here before, I conduct NFL and NBA lineup advice videos pretty much for every single slate during the course of the NBA and NFL season. So if you want to be able to be a part of the DFS Zone community, make sure you subscribe down below. That's basically all you have to do. And make sure you put on that post notification, that little bell icon. Make sure that is turned on. So this way you don't miss out on any of my NFL as well as NBA lineup advice videos when they come out. All right, so we have a 10-game slate this Sunday in the NFL. Going to discuss only the running backs here today. There are a number of running backs that are pretty good spots this week. Obviously, at the top of the board here, Todd Gurley is the best running back in the NFL. He's proven that week in and week out. He is going to be probably another guy that's going to do very well this week. I'm going to have some exposure to him personally. I've had exposure to him the last like 4 or 5 weeks in a row. Just simply, I'm not saying as a core, but I definitely throw him in and sprinkle him in a few lineups every single week, as I make 6 or 7 lineups pretty much every Sunday for the main slate as well as the 1 o'clock separately. So I normally do, as of the last 4 weeks, I've been pretty much using Todd Gurley because, I mean, he's just like, he's pretty much consistent. He's getting to give you 20 to 20 plus pretty much every week. So why not utilize him until somebody stops him, which it has not happened yet. I see no reason why you cannot play him. So he's definitely in play for me. Barkley's another one is pretty much in play. Think it's a tough week for him. Washington is pretty good against the run, but I'm basically gonna give you guys, I believe Kareem Hunt is in a very good spot here going up against Denver. Mr. Hunt, he did play against this team a couple of weeks ago, and he put up 121 rushing yards on them with 25 fantasy points, and he did have 1 touchdown. He also had 4 targets, which he had 3 receptions and 54 yards. So he definitely lit him up. I had him then, and I had him in the week 2, and he has done well for me ever since. He's in a good spot again. The last 2 weeks has been absolutely wonderful. 34.6 fantasy points last week. The prior week before that against New England, he put up 27. Over the course of the last pretty much 3 games, he's been averaging more than 83. Let's put it this way: he's had 3 straight games, as you can see here, over 80 yards. He's had 2 touchdowns. He's been targeted 14 times over the last 3 games, and he has 11 receptions with over 210 yards receiving with 3 touchdowns. So I mean, he's just been on fire. He's getting about 20, pretty much on average, 20 to 21 targets per game, combined between rushing and receiving. So again, he's just in a very, very good position here. Over the last 3 games, he's been really, really solid. In the red zone, he is 6th in the NFL in red zone opportunities. He's been in the red zone 16 times for 45 yards and 5 touchdowns. We're going up against Denver. Denver is 30th in the NFL in rushing defense, giving up 148 yards per game, 5.3 yards per rush. And we have a gentleman here that's averaging more than 6 yards per rush when he's carrying the ball. They've also given up 8 touchdowns to running backs this season. This season, as far as fantasy points, they've given up 158 yards per game allowed and 7 TDs. The running backs have had 40 targets against this defense, have caught 31 passes for 236 yards and 1 touchdown. Overall, fantasy points per game, the 6th most in the NFL. DK 29.2, Fanduel 25.5 fantasy points per game. So in the red zone, they've coughed up 60% of the time the opponents have gone in the red zone. They have scored 3 opportunities per game thus far this year with 2 touchdowns per game. So again, Kareem Hunt in a very, very good position here. I expect Kansas City to be up in this game, and then it's going to also help him actually be able to just run between the tackles a little bit more. But he is such a big part of their offense as far as not only running between the tackles, but also going out for passes. I expect him to do very well here this week. Definitely a very favorable matchup for Kareem Hunt, and especially at home against Denver. So the next guy I'm going to discuss is James Conner. I like James Conner this week. He's 8,000 here. He's 7,500 on DK. Obviously, another dual threat back. He played this team. He played the first week of the season against Cleveland, and he lit them up for 31 rushing attempts, 135 yards, 2 TDs. He also had himself 5 receptions out of 6 targets, 57 yards. He put up 31.7 fantasy points in that game. The last 2 weeks, he's been just absolutely incredible. He has put up a 26 spot and a 32 spot in the last 2 games before the bye. He has 2 100-yard rushing games, as you can see here in the last 2 games. 4 rushing TDs, added 4 receiving, 4 receptions out of 11 targets for an additional 93 more yards. So, I mean, I don't know what's the problem with Pittsburgh. No Le'Veon Bell, no problem, and you got James Conner, right? So, I mean, the bottom line, he is definitely good to go here. Red zone, 17 carries, 36 yards, 6 TDs, 85% rushing percentage. Inside the 20, inside the 5, he's just been just as effective. Has had 10 rushes for 8 yards, and all 6 of his TDs that he has inside the 20 has been really inside the 5. So he is very, very good inside that red zone. They're going to utilize him. They're definitely in a very good matchup here. Cleveland is giving up the fourth most rushing yards allowed per game to running backs, 134.7 yards per game and 10 touchdowns. They also have allowed 8 TDs to running backs, 10 touchdowns. And DK, as far as fantasy points, they're in the top 10 in fantasy points allowed to running backs, 28.4 DK points and 24.5 Fanduel points. So, I really, really love the matchup here. Red zone opportunities are just as good for Mr. Conner. I think this is a great matchup for him, man. He's just been on fire. They're going to need to utilize him. They need to keep winning these games. They're still trailing Baltimore and obviously Cincinnati. So these games, every one of these games right now for every one of these teams, Baltimore, Cincinnati, as well as Pittsburgh, are very important games. I definitely think Pittsburgh at home is an advantage, and I expect Mr. Conner to do very well there. My third running back, I can't give you everybody up here. I love Joe Mixon as well. There's a number of good plays here, but you got to have to throw somebody at you guys that maybe not too many people are targeting or that is a little bit cheaper. And Marlon Mack still has that questionable tag on him as far as the ankle. Keep an eye on that throughout Saturday. Today is Friday. So I do have an interest in Mack here if he's able to going up against Oakland, was giving up pretty much 28.3 DK and 25 Fanduel fantasy points per game to running back, so they're a little vulnerable there. And this gentleman is averaging 83 yards per game, and he's putting up 15 fantasy points per game. And he had pretty much a nice solid game the last game out, 19 rushes for 126 yards and 1 touchdown. He also had 3 targets. Did make 2 catches for 33 yards additional and another touchdown. He had a 30 spot. It was his best game of the year, but he's been up and down with injuries throughout the year. He is someone that I'm considering. Other than him, I'm going to really go all the way down. Matt Breida has been one of my favorite, cheaper running backs, but his teammate, Mr. Raheem Mostert, is probably going to be the one that's going to end up playing. If, and this is only if there's no Breida, I would definitely go with Raheem. Okay, 5,600 here on FanDuel. He's 3,800 on DK. He is definitely a nice price on DK. Love him a lot more on DK. Almost $2,000, actually $1,800 cheaper on DK for Raheem Mostert. So I would consider my Raheem Mostert. Looking at the last 2 games, he's been getting a lot of action while Breida's been having those injuries. He's been definitely taking advantage of those opportunities. As you can see here, he has 7 carries for 59 yards in the last game. That's pretty much 8.4 yards per rush. He also had 4 targets, received all 100% catch percentage there, 19 additional yards. He put up 9.8 fantasy points. And on the game before that against Green Bay, 12 rushes, 87 yards. That was pretty much 7.25 yards per rush. So overall over 7 yards of rush over the last 2 games. And 8.7 yards. Again, he's more targeted simply because of the cheap price, and more importantly because he's going up against Arizona, and I love picking on Arizona. As you have seen over the course of the 7-8 weeks of the season, I have chosen a number of running backs against Arizona. Not only that, San Francisco here definitely wants a little payback. Arizona did come into San Francisco and upset them in their own home field. They will like to repay them and pay, and go to Arizona now and beat Arizona at home. And hopefully Mr. Raheem will be one of those guys that's going to be able to help out here. Arizona 31st in rushing defense, allowing 148.3 yards per game. They have also given up 12 touchdowns to running backs this year, and that's the most in the NFL. Running backs also second most fantasy points per game given up to running backs, second most in the NFL as well. 35.4 DK and 29.2 FanDuel. So, I mean, it's just, again, for me, it's just a matter of, hey, the matchup is there. You're going up against one of the weaker rushing defenses in the NFL. Even though your best running back may be questionable, you have a kid here that is going to take advantage of the opportunity, run him between the tackles. He looks like he's pretty explosive in the open field from some of the highlights that I've seen over the course of the time that he has played. I think he's just someone you just gotta at least have some exposure to. So I will have some exposure to Mr. Raheem Mostert if he is able to play. And that's pretty much it. And keep an eye on Marlon Mack as well. If anything else comes about over the next few days from here to Saturday, I will more than likely mention something on Twitter or on Instagram, or maybe even in a comment of this actual running back video. So always take a look at it just in case. Don't know if I'm going to do a live show tomorrow as of yet. If I do, I will post it during the course of the day so you guys will be able to. I know I didn't do one last week. I was busy with the family. I do have another event tomorrow to go to with the family. So if I get back on time, I'll do it. If not, then I'll try. I'll get on when I can, and maybe it'll be the following week. So, but other than that, that's basically it for running backs, man. Wish everybody a lot of luck. So if you want to continue to get that NFL and NBA content, definitely subscribe down below, become part of the DFS Zone family, and make sure that you put on those post notifications. This way you don't miss out on any of those videos. And that's pretty much it, guys. I'll see you guys on the next video.